What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for some more NFL content. This one will be the NFL midseason predictions for 2021. Yes, we are through 9 weeks of the 18-week-long regular season. We are perfectly halfway through the regular season, so I thought it was only right to look ahead at the playoff picture, and I will be predicting how it'll all fill out. I will be giving my 7 teams to make the playoffs in order with their projected record at the end of the season. So as you see on the screen right now, these are the NFC standings. We'll be starting out in the NFC where we have Arizona at the top, the lone one-loss team in the NFL. And for my predictions in the NFC playoff picture, I actually think that the Rams will get this number 1 seed. Yes, I think they are a better team than the Cardinals. These two teams play December 13th, a Monday night game in Arizona. I think the Rams win that game. I really just trust McVay and Stafford on offense. I think they will be able to bounce back, even though they looked abysmal this last Sunday night game against Tennessee. I really just trust their defense. I think they will be able to bounce back. They do have a very hard second half of the schedule, so this is a very unpopular pick for me, having them finishing in the number 1 seed. As I mentioned, they have to play the Cardinals, then they have to play the Niners twice. They also have to play the Seahawks when they have Russell Wilson back. They also have to face the Ravens, Vikings, and Packers. But I think through all those games, they only lose 2. They finish out 6-2 for the rest of the season, and I think they claim the number 1 seed. At number 2, I have the Buccaneers, and they just get edged out here because of that Week 3 head-to-head win in LA by the Rams. And I think the Buccaneers could be in line for the 1 seed. I have them finishing 7-2 here for the rest of the regular season. They do have a bit of an easier schedule here. I really like Tom Brady, the way he's been playing throughout this season. Their kryptonite does seem to be the Saints, but I do not think they will lose to them in Tampa Bay, their second time that they play this season. So give me the Bucs to finish at number 2. I think their defense does need to play a bit better, but Tom Brady and the offense have been clicking thus far. So I think Tampa Bay is a lock for a top 2 seed in the playoffs. Next, we have the Cowboys at 12-5. And I'm going to be honest, I would have had them higher, probably a top 2 seed, but this last week was terrible. I mean, at least the Rams lost to a great Tennessee Titan team. But no, this Cowboys team at home was down 30-0 until garbage time to the Denver Broncos. And it really just exposed the weaknesses of this team. Their O-line isn't as good as it was a few years back. And really, Dak just could not get it going. He was forcing the ball on offense, couldn't get anything going. They found themselves in a lot of third down and longs. When they really need to stop the running game, they really just can't do that. Javonte Williams ran all over them. So I know it was only 1 week, but it really exposed their weaknesses. I still think they win the NFC East, but I do not think they get a top 2 seed. I have them getting 3 losses here in the latter half of the season. They have to play a lot of divisional games. So I think they'll lose a couple of those rivalry games within the NFC East, and I think they finish at 12-5 there in the 3rd spot. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, who I have them finishing at a disappointing 11-6 record. I think this team has a lot of tough games in the second half of the schedule. It's not going to be nearly as easy as the first half. They also won a bevy of close games in this first half of the season. They probably should have lost to the Cardinals, but luckily ended up winning that one there. So I think Packers going to lose 4 games in this latter half of the season and drop to 11-6. I still think they will win the NFC North, as the other teams in that division quite simply are terrible at this point. Now we get into the wild card, and as I show you here, these are the NFC standings. So the one glaring team that I have not put in right now is the Arizona Cardinals, and I will have them at the 5th seed at 12-5. I do think they will fall off in the second half of the season. I have them going 4-4 for the last 8 games, and with them starting out 8-1, that does seem pretty surprising, but as with the other teams, in the NFC West. So I have them dropping a few contests down the road here, and I think their schedule does get a bit harder. They do have to play the Colts on Christmas, which I think will be a loss for them. So give me the Cardinals to finish at 12-5 and drop to a wild card spot. Next, we have the second wild card spot, and this one is going to the New Orleans Saints, finishing 10-7. Now, I was not high on the Saints throughout the season, but they just kept racking up victories. This last week, they did lose to the Falcons, but they are sitting at 5-3, so I think that does bode well for them getting a playoff appearance. Jameis Winston is out for the season, but I think Trevor Siemian and the Taysom Hill combo will do enough to get it done. They do have Alvin Kamara in the backfield, and their defense is just really stout. I think the defense is just going to carry them to a playoff berth. Again, I only have them finishing 5-4 over the latter half of the season, so that's not that great, and their schedule isn't too tough, so I do think they will be able to find the playoffs this season. For the last spot, we return to the NFC standings, where the 7th seed would be the Atlanta Falcons, but I just do not feel good about that team making the playoffs at this point. They've kind of lucked into that 4-4 record, grinded out games. Carolina, I don't feel great about them with Sam Darnold. Minnesota at 3-5, don't feel great. So I'm actually going to give this one to the San Francisco 49ers at 9-8. They have truly done nothing to deserve this, but I just think that they will be able to flip the script with Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G. They have not played well at all in these first 8 weeks. They have only won one game in their last 6, but it just comes down to their schedule in these latter half of games being very easy. So I think they will be able to turn it back. They have gotten their 2 games with the Cardinals over with. They do have to face the Seahawks again and 2 Rams games. They do play the Jags and the Texans, which I think are 2 easy victories. They also play the Bengals, who I think they will win against. So I have the Niners going 9-8, barely sneaking into the playoffs. I mean, you could make a good argument for any of those teams that I listed before in the playoff picture, but I just think the Niners have the easiest schedule, and I think they win head-to-head games against the Seahawks and Vikings, which give them those tiebreakers. So I think the Niners narrowly squeak into that spot, but it really could be any of those teams. Now we get on to the AFC playoff picture. As you see, the current standings right now, Tennessee atop the conference. And for my predictions, I have the Bills claiming the top spot. Yes, I know they had a terrible loss this last week, but I do think they will bounce back and only have 1 loss in the latter half of the season. I really like the way Josh Allen's been playing. He did play terrible in Jacksonville, but I will not have that much recency bias in these predictions. I think the Bills get that one done. Their defense has played very well all season long, so I think the Bills get that one done there at the 1 spot. Then at the 2 spot, I have the Tennessee Titans, and I easily would have them number 1, but I do think them losing Derrick Henry will ultimately cost them the number 1 seed. You saw this last week against the Rams, their defense clamped up, which their defense is heavily improved from last season, but they really couldn't do much on offense in the first half against the Rams. And I think that will continue on. Their schedule is not that easy in the second half. I think they lose 3 games here. They do win the AFC South. Hold on for that. But I do not think their defense is as good as showed against the Rams. So I think they will start to crumble a bit. 3 losses in the second half and fall to the 2 seed. Next, I have the Ravens going 11-6. They are currently fighting it out in the AFC North, and they currently hold a record of 6-2, but I think they have some crucial divisional contests, which I think they lose. Also, a couple tough out-of-conference games in the second half, which I think they lose. I think they hold on to the AFC North, but there will be a few losses heading their way, so I think they fall to 11-6 and the 3rd seed. Next, we get into the 4th spot in the AFC, and I have this one going to the Chargers. Chargers also very tough division, but I think they eke it out. The Chiefs have just been far too inconsistent for me, and the Raiders are fraudulent as always, in my opinion. So I think the Chargers hold on at 11-6. These last 3 weeks, they have not played great football. They got blown out by the Ravens. They lost at home to the Patriots, and then I thought they'd beat the Eagles by more, but they do end up winning that game. I think they get back on track here and end up winning the division, winning some crucial games down the stretch to go 11-6. Next, we get into the wild card spots, and at 5, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they've played terrible this season, but they are sitting at 5-4. That's a winning record, so I do think they will be able to eke out their fair share of games in the second half of the season, and I think Patrick Mahomes will start to play better. This Kansas City offense will have to start playing better, or they will just keep losing these games. But even so, record at being at 5-4, that's pretty good. Good enough for a wild card in the AFC, so I have them going 10-7 there. Next, I have the Browns going 10-7, and they lose out on the tiebreaker to the Chiefs via the Week 1 win by the Chiefs in Kansas City. Browns, I think they narrowly lose out on the AFC North to the Ravens. I like the brand of football that they've been playing. I think they are better than the Bengals and the Steelers in that division. I just think they're more talented. And they've shown that if they can get the running game going, they can beat any team in the NFL. Baker in the play-action game, he's pretty good, and their defense is very good. So I think the Browns will be a formidable team, and I think they do have a good chance in the AFC North, but I think the Ravens squeeze that out there. Then we get to the last wild card spot, and this is really wide open. You can take your pick between a bevy of teams, but in this spot, give me the Las Vegas Raiders. Just really their record so far in the season. They're 5-3, so I have them going 9-8, and that would require them going 4-5, having a losing record even, and they'd still make the playoffs. So I do think they make the playoffs at 9-8. As I said before, I think they're a fraudulent team, but Derek Carr has played pretty well, and the defense has played well in timely situations so far this season. So I think the Raiders don't play well in the second half of the season, but they narrowly squeeze into the playoffs at the 7th seed. So with that being said, please let me know what your guys' playoff pictures and playoff predictions look like after Week 9 of the NFL season, and I will see you all in the next one.